Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Hello. How's everyone doing today? Happy MLK Day. Arlene, we're not hearing you.
I'm sorry, I was muted.
Hey, okay, we got Arlene on the line. So hi, everybody. I'm Yvonne Laria, Dr. Laria for some. Is that better? All right. We're getting all our technical stuff worked out. We're getting it all worked out. It's good to be here today. Today is MLK Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, January 17th, 2022. We're coming live to you from GC Scored. This is our Access RUMERTIME Conversations podcast, and we're doing a live today. And with me, we have an amazing team today. And so I'm going to have everybody introduce themselves.
Go ahead, Dr. Arlene E.J. Edwards.
Hi, Dr. Geneva. I'm Arlene Edwards Joseph, and I am a part of GC Scored.
You don't seem too happy to be a part of GC Scored.
I am very happy to be a part of the GC Scored family. I am. I'm the director of of educational services, and I also assist in any other capacity that the organization needs.
Awesome.
Exactly, and it's so much goes to that. Perhaps it's about you are iced up over there. You guys, are you experiencing some icy weather over there where you are in your neck of the woods?
In North Carolina, in Raleigh, yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we have freezing rain and it's very cold.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. It's kind of chilly where I'm at as well. So, hello everyone. I am Geneva Fleming. I'm Vice President with GC Scored, better known as Dr. G, and I bring you greetings from South Carolina. No ice, just chill.
No
Looking
ice.
forward to this conversation today.
Yes. And we have one other, Vanessa. She's having some challenges joining us. I don't know what's going on. So we'll just keep it rolling until she comes on. And so we're going to get started. We're getting started. So our discussion today is going to focus on social awareness. Just to let you know, GC Squad is an organization that focuses on the social emotional skills and well-being of individuals across the globe, locally, nationally, regionally, and internationally. And so we focus on an individual's ability to be able to recognize and understand and manage and express and reflect on their thoughts, interactions, their mindsets and emotions, and how these show up in relationships of all kinds in all settings. Okay, so we're going to take a closer look today at Dr. King's social awareness skills. All right, so we're going to rumerize Dr. King today. And we're going to look at some of his quotes, and we're going to look at some of the character traits that converge to help us experience some of the amazing things that he has done in the world. And we look at it from, again, through the lens of social emotional competence. Okay, so I know many people may not think of social awareness or social emotional competence in this way, but GC scored looks at social emotional competence as the air we breathe. It is included in everything we do. And Dr. King is a great example of social awareness skills. And so, what are social awareness skills? And I just want to share with you our definition of social awareness skills. Okay. And I'm going to pull this up here and share my screen with you just for a moment. I can't help myself, people. I have to teach, right? I'm a born teacher. All right, so GC scores, are you guys seeing this?
Yes.
All right, good. GC scored definition of social awareness is the ability to be other focused and to be mindful of the other's perspectives, their culture, their needs, concerns, and feelings when we're interacting with them and even outside of interacting with them. It involves demonstrating in substantial, culturally responsive, and relatable ways empathy, compassion, cultural humility, and empathy and inclusion towards individuals and societal problems. So that's our definition, right? So that is the definition that we use as we do our work, as we do our work. And so what does the rest of the team have to say about this definition? I'm gonna leave it up for a little bit so that you can let's pick this apart, and then we will move into how we see examples of Dr. King's social awareness skills on display.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing this definition, Dr. Laria.
Mm-hmm.
And it is an all-encompassing definition for social awareness. And when I look at this definition, and as I just heard the words coming from your lips,
Mm-hmm.
culturally responsive, empathy, compassion, cultural humility, equity, and inclusion. It just seems that Dr. King, his life, his character embodies this definition of social awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It is who he has been to us and what we continue to learn from his life and his legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he exuded all of those virtues that are included in this definition of social awareness. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay. Okay. Dr. EJ.
I guess for me, as I looked at the definition, the one thing that came to mind for me was more of just his overall character. And in his overall character, one of the qualities that we have there is empathy. And in his overall character, he cared so much about other people that in his work, a lot of what he did was for other people
Mhm,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to make life better for other people
mhm, mhm,
and,
Okay.
noticing and observing what they were experiencing and trying to figure out how putting himself in their shoes and how can he help them have a better life.
mhm.
Okay.
That's what
Okay.
comes to mind for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good, good. So yeah, so all of those things, and how, it makes me wonder, right? I mean, he would have been 93 years old this year,
Yeah.
on today, I guess. Um, and
15th,
the 15th,
the 15th.
the
Mhm,
15th. So he would
mhm.
have been 93. No, that's the age of my mom is going to be 93 years this year, right? So let's think about how, and I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute here. So let's think about some of those words, because words matter, right? It's being mindful of the other, being mindful of the other, um, being looking at other people's perspectives, valuing others' cultural norms and practices. Um, you know, thinking about how we could respond in a culturally competent way, sensitive way, how we could be inclusive, how we could be inclusive of others. And so we want to look at that when we think of what he laid his life down for. I mean, he's not Jesus. Let's not get it twisted, right? But he had to have known that what he was doing for the other, for the social other, whether it's collective or individual or in terms of a particular group, he had to have come to the place of realization that his life was in jeopardy, right? It makes me think how, it makes me think about myself. How willing am I to think about the social other to the point of discomfort, inconvenience?
Mhm.
That's a tall order.
I'd
Yeah.
like to respond to that. And
Okay.
I'm glad it's interesting that you mentioned, Dr. Laria, that was not Jesus, but
Mhm.
he exuded the characteristics of Jesus in this earth during
Mhm.
this time, during his time.
Mhm.
And I believe in so doing. Because one of the things, many of us learn through, history books. We know about Dr. King as the civil rights leader, but
Mhm.
many seems to put his person as a pastor, as a minister, as a preacher of the gospel
Mhm.
on the back burner, or may
Mhm.
not be able to infuse those two roles together. But for
Mhm.
him, he was that all encompassing person. You couldn't separate his work in the ministry from his work in civil rights. In fact, his work in the ministry was the foundation that fueled his work
Mhm.
in civil rights. So
Right.
I believe that Dr. King believed that his life was not his own. And as Jesus demonstrated in the earth and gave his life up for others, so did Dr. King. And his life, the giving of his life manifested in the way that we know it to be. He
Mhm.
laid down his life. But I believe that was foundational
Mhm.
in the person that he was. He
Mhm.
was a man of God. That's what he
Mhm.
preached. And he
Mhm.
lived what he believed, which is
Right.
another social awareness. He lived what he believed, even to
Mhm.
the death, which
Mhm.
is what Jesus did.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Vanessa, you're on. Good to see you.
Yes.
Introduce yourself and tell us what you think about that.
I definitely agree with what Dr. Geneva was just saying. And the thing that just struck me with what she's saying is that his life was not his own and that he gave that. He gave all that he had, his very life,
Mhm.
for others because of the belief that he had.
Mhm.
Um, and I think because of that, because people saw that he was willing to give so much, that in itself was a connection. Because to me, I believe people saw that if you are willing to give this,
Mhm.
I'm willing to follow because you are showing me that you value me as a
Mhm.
person. You value my life so much so
Mhm.
that you are willing to put your life at risk as
Mhm.
well. So I definitely agree with what Dr. Geneva was just sharing.
So let me
Mhm.
ask the question. because we're just having a freestyle conversation surrounding this topic. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so he was a minister of the gospel. He was a believer,
Mhm.
and his belief translated into action.
Mhm.
What my first question is it only pastors, ministers, clergy people who could show that type of empathy, or is it something that each of us are called to do?
I think
It,
it's something,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I think it's something that we're all called to do. I think as human beings, we have a responsibility to our fellow human beings. And so I think that I think that we can learn from our pastors and our other leaders, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that we have a responsibility.
Uh-oh, she's frozen.
I wasn't sure
Okay.
if that was on my end or not. Well,
Yeah.
while she is throwing out there in Raleigh, North Carolina, yeah,
Arlene,
I'll
you.
just piggyback on excuse me.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
No, I was just going to continue what Dr. Arlene has started. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we all have a responsibility. It is not
Mm-hmm.
limited to the clergy and to those in leadership. As a matter of fact, if those in leadership are effective leaders, then they would be teaching others how to be the same, how to do that. Kind of like a seed,
Mm-hmm.
right? So leaders should be imparting into others that message.
Mm-hmm.
Today, for instance, we're talking social awareness, imparting the message of social awareness into others so
Mm-hmm.
that others could take that same message,
Mm-hmm.
become strong in it themselves, and then share even with others. You know, spread
Mm-hmm.
the word, spread the seed, so
Mm-hmm.
that we can all become the better for it. It is definitely not limited to those of the clergy. And
Okay.
Dr. King preached that wherever he went around the globe. So
Mm-hmm.
he's been planting seeds,
Mm-hmm.
throughout his ministry. We call it the civil rights movement. I call it his ministry because
Mm-hmm.
he was very he was living that life, that Christ-like life, and imparting the good, imparting the seeds, the seeds of
Mm-hmm.
justice and righteousness into
Mm-hmm.
others. So,
Right.
um, no, not limited. We all have a responsibility. Each
We
one of
all
us
have a
as individuals.
responsibility. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Vanessa,
Yeah.
look like you could say something.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, you know what? That was so eloquent, Doctor, Dr. Geneva. That was just very eloquent. Um, but I think for me, I want to break it down plain and simple. The
Mm-hmm.
thing that I think of is I definitely, again, I agree with everything that both you and Dr. Arlene were just saying. But for me, to break it down in the simplest terms, one of the things that I was taught as a child and that was instilled in me, the thing that I try to do in my daily walk of life is that golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can show love to my brother, my hope is that they will see that Christ in me, that
Mm-hmm.
Mhm,
love, that empathy,
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
and then in return, give that back and share with others.
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
So, yes, is that something that I can do? Yes, I believe that's something that I am called to do on a daily
mhm,
basis.
mhm,
And I believe that is the way that I show Christ in me. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that is the way that Dr. King showed the Christ in him.
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
So I try to live that every day, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
mhm,
And my hope again is that others can see that in me
Mm-hmm.
reciprocate, and spread it out to
Mhm.
everybody else they come in contact
Mhm.
with.
Mhm.
Mhm. And so
Vanessa, oh, go ahead.
I want to show another slide,
Okay,
and I want to also ask another question. So, we understand it is not just for clergy people. Is it for just religious people, people who believe in Christ? Could
No,
absolutely not.
no.
Absolutely.
anybody?
And
Could
no, and
anybody?
one of the
Wait. Could anybody, whether you're a Christian or not, show empathy?
absolutely.
Of course,
Absolutely.
yes.
You know, one of the things that I want to piggyback on what Vanessa just shared about the golden rule and, you know, what she was taught as a child. And many of us had that same lesson. Um, do unto others as you would have them do, you know, unto ourselves. And spreading that, you know, as Vanessa was talking, I'm imagining seeds being planted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because with with my interaction with others, you know, if I'm giving what I want to get back, isn't, you know, that just reminds me of the agricultural metaphor, you know, that's foundational in the work of GC Scored
Mm-hmm.
and the seed planting. We put in what we want to get out. So if I want good, I want to plant good so that good can come back to me.
Right, right.
And that is definitely, it crosses all religious, spiritual boundaries and threads. It is definitely not limited to one sect, one group, one race. This is, you know, one of the things
It's
about the
humanity.
work that we do.
It's about being civil and being human.
Absolutely. And and this whole and the work that we do about being, you know, focusing on being culturally responsive.
Mm-hmm.
Responsive. It responds to any and every culture anywhere across the globe.
Exactly,
So it
exactly.
is definitely
I
not
do.
limiting. It is all encompassing.
Yeah. So I want to pull up the. Thank you. Oh, Arlene, did you want to say something?
I was gonna say something. I was gonna say that I do think that we're all, as human beings, we're all called to take care of each other.
Mm-hmm.
But as Dr. Geneva was talking, something that came to mind for me was that we plant the seed doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see the seed grow. That
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
we plant the seeds as human beings, and even if we don't see it grow, that somebody else will see it grow.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! And so we have that responsibility to keep going and keep taking care of each other. And it's not because we're looking back for somebody to do it for us.
Mm-hmm.
Our good may come from someplace else,
Mm-hmm.
and that other person's good may come from us, and they pass it on to somebody else and not back to us.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm, mm, mm.
And so
Oh,
that's
Dr.
a
Arlene,
very
that
good
is
point.
so
That's a
good.
good point because Dr. King did not live to see
Mm-mm.
President Obama, who is a
Right.
direct result of him planting his seeds
Yeah.
of social awareness. That's what he was planting, right? He was planting the seeds of social awareness,
That's right.
empathy, compassion, inclusion, equity. All of that has to do um, with what Dr. King stood for, that social awareness skill. And so I want people to, one of the things I want to get out of this conversation today is to let individuals know that emulating this quality in Dr. King is not relegated to people over there or people up there or people out. This is a responsibility. It doesn't matter how old you are, right? It is like the air we breathe. Social awareness, social emotional competencies are like the air we breathe. And so when we get up in the morning, right, from the beginning, from the rising of the sun our responsibility should be to think about the social other, the person in your home. Start there. Let's start with the people in our homes. You know, there's an African proverb that says, the ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. One of the ways for us to show empathy, it has to start in our homes. So this next slide, I don't know if you see it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Empathy is an action, and it gets its fuel or energy from the mind. So everything that you guys are talking about, that we've been talking about so far, is action, right? To do unto others, do. That's an action, right? We saw how MLK acted, interacted, what he did. He gave up his life. Even his family had to give him up, basically. It's kind of like our military. The military families around the world, they show empathy by having to give up the security of having their loved one with them. You know, the frontline workers, you know, as we're going through COVID, all of these people, these are the ways that empathy shows up. Empathy is not about necessarily it's not only about a concept in the mind, right? It starts there, but it really is not empathy until it is enacted, until something is done, right? Because I could think empathically, I could think compassionately, but if I am not doing anything with that,
Yeah.
is it empathy? Is it compassion?
It's
If
the
I'm,
thought of empathy.
it's a
It's,
thought.
it's the thought of empathy and it's the thought of compassion.
Yeah,
However,
yeah. So it has to be. So that's why I said empathy is an action, and it gets its fuel from the mind. So it starts there, but then it becomes an action once it's been thought. You think about it, and then you act on it, right? What are your thoughts about this in relation to this quote, in relation to our overarching conversation about how Dr. King lived empathy?
I believe he lived it, as Dr. Geneva said, firstly, from the pulpit.
Mm-hmm.
He showed love to those, as a minister from the pulpit. He showed love to those with whom sat under the sound of his voice. And then when he came from behind the pulpit and walked, when he marched for the rights, simple human rights of Black folk, he lived that. So it wasn't just words spoke. He
Mm-hmm.
put that in action.
Yeah.
When he participated in marches, when he helped to strategically um, plan, sit-ins and boycotts. That was his way of living the empathy that he had for his people.
Okay. Okay. So empathy is an action. Empathy is an action.
You know, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So I like that. I'm focused on the latter part of that definition that says from the mind. You know, it's an action. Empathy is an action and gets its fuel from the mind. And, I can't help but, focusing. This is who I am. So I aim to be, am a Christ-like person. And I think about, when I speak and when I give thought to something, I'm thinking about it as it relates to the word of God. And I can't help but think about that scripture in Romans 12 about the essential necessity of renewing the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And empathy is an action and gets its fuel from the mind. So the condition of the mind matters. So
There you go.
if we're experiencing
Absolutely.
an empathy
Absolutely.
gap, we have to look at the root of that empathy gap. Where's that
Mhm.
coming from?
There you
Perhaps
go. There you go.
individuals don't have the mind to be empathetic. They don't understand it. They don't recognize it. They don't understand it. Therefore, they can't manage it or express it because
Mm-hmm.
they lack awareness of it. So
Mm-hmm.
then it's incumbent upon us to teach, to educate, and equip people so that people can get to the place of rethinking, renewing the way they
Mm-hmm.
think and the way they believe, so they can get to that place of understanding, recognizing and understanding, and then putting empathy into action. But until that
Mm-hmm.
renewal takes place, hmm, we might continue to experience the empathy gap that we see around the world.
Yes. I
Mhm,
love that. The empathy gap.
Yes.
mhm,
Because there is, right, there's a huge empathy gap. And if
mhm,
we think about, like you say, it is fueled, empathy is fueled from the mind. What is the condition of the mind? And so we
Mhm.
have to go back
mhm,
to the root. Dr. Geneva, you're on point. You're on point. And
mhm,
so
mhm.
how do we, so then what was the condition of, we can make some assumptions. What was the condition of Dr. King's mindset? What kind of mindset did he have? Because if we, believe in this quote, empathy is an action and gets its fuel, energy from the mind. And we know what the scripture says, let this mind be in you,
Mhm.
Which is
Well, I have a question.
also, which
which
is
was also in
also,
Christ Jesus,
Mhm.
right?
That's
And
right.
so the empathy gap.
Well, Dr. Yvonne, I have a question,
Okay.
or a thought. I guess
Hmm.
what I'm thinking is part of the empathy gap, the fact that some people are born with the ability to express empathy, or is it something that we are taught? And
Very
so
good.
Was Martin Luther King taught how to be empathetic and how to look to others and how to take care of other people and to respect and appreciate other people's culture and all the things that he did? Was he taught that, or was he born with that innately?
It could be both. It could be both. It could be that maybe we don't know. Maybe he was born with that. He was born into a home that was spiritual and religious.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an environment that was already helped to create that seed, helped to germinate that seed, help that seed to grow,
Oh,
right? So if he had that in him, the environment helped to nurture that. I think his father was a preacher,
he
as far
was,
as
yeah.
I understand. And
Mhm.
so they created an environment, the soil,
mhm,
that was conducive to empathy, thinking about others, doing unto others as you would have them do unto you, living out that life of service, right? Living that life of service, knowing that yes, you're going to get an education. Yes, you're going to get a job. Yes, you're going to have a house. Yes, you're going to have a car. Yes, you're going to get married. That's great. You're gonna feel good about all those things, but it's not supposed to stop there.
Right.
It's supposed to be used to help others.
And that's why one of the reasons I was asking that question is because I do like Dr. Geneva's term, the empathy gap. And I wonder if maybe one of the reasons that we don't see some people doing those things, taking care of others, being concerned about others, social justice, etc., is because they were not taught how to do that.
Yeah, and it could be taught. Empathy can be taught. All the social emotional skills can be taught, and that's what we at GC Scored, that's what we do, right? We have the Institute for Social Emotional Education, and we teach individuals how to be self-aware, how to dig deeper into the reasons for self-awareness and lack of it. We teach individuals and organizations across the globe about self-management, how to manage your thoughts, your interactions, mindsets, and emotions. We teach them how to manage relationships. We teach them how to manage, how to express. We teach them about social awareness, like what we're doing today, and we use different ways to do that. Right? There are different ways that we do that. So we also talk about helping people. We teach individuals how to make responsible decisions, right? So we teach, we educate, we equip, and we empower individuals in the social emotional competencies. And this is, I'm gonna get off on a little tangent here. This is the reason why I'm baffled. I'm flabbergasted that there is a debate in this country that we shouldn't teach social emotional competencies. Because I believe, again, if we go back to that mind thing, do the people who are making those claims and making those policies, do they understand that everything that they do, everything that everybody does, that we all do, is grounded in social emotional skills? It's grounded. When you wake up in the morning and you know who you are, that's part of self-awareness. When you ask yourself, or say to yourself, I don't really like this color. That's part of being self-aware. When you say, oh, you know what, let me don't take this route today to go to work, or let me make a PB&J sandwich instead of a bologna sandwich. That's responsible decision making. So how could you form your mouth to say, we're not going to teach social emotional skills because of whatever your reasoning is? It makes no sense. So for anybody who's listening that has anything to do with policies regarding social emotional skills, I think you need to take another look, because as air is to life, so are social emotional competencies to relationships. They are like the air we breathe. And so you cannot separate social emotional competency building from daily living. You can't, because you're doing it. Whether you're conscious or unconscious of it, you are engaged in social emotional skill development, implementation, expression, you're in it. As long as you have life, you're in it. And so I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but I did say I was getting off on a tangent. So that was my tangent. Because what we're doing is we're trying to compartmentalize things or constructs that are not meant to be compartmentalized. You cannot separate human development, growth and development from social emotional development and growth. You cannot. Just like you can't have a life is your body, your soul, and your spirit. You can't separate them. If you separate them, you're gonna be dead.
Mm.
So that's my take. So
You, I just say amen to that.
yeah.
And therein lies the one of the impetus for the education, right? We
Mm-hmm.
must continue to educate because perhaps those who are considering those policies and creating these new rules and laws, they themselves, the policymakers, need to be educated on social emotional competence. They need to become competent so that
Yeah.
can help fuel the decisions that they are making that's impacting the lives of so many others.
So many others. So many others across the globe. And so,
Mhm.
we at GC Squad on a mission, but we need your help, right? And today is a day recognized as service. I saw in the one of the news feeds I get this morning came in where um, one of the things that MLK's son and his family are doing in collaboration with about over 180 other voting rights organizations is coming together to focus on the voting rights. One of the pillars of what MLK worked so hard to get for people of color in this country. Um, and so that's service, right? And one of the things that the headline of that article says, no celebration without, I think, what did it say? No celebration without voting rights or something like that. Let me look and see where it is. um and so that's a form of service, right? That's a form of service. That's a form of social awareness, understanding what in our society needs fixing, and how can I use my resources, whether it's my time, my talent, my treasure, my education, whatever it is you've been entrusted with. How can you use it to help make a difference? How can you use it to make sure that everyone who is able has the right to be represented and heard, not marginalized, made to also feel like a part of a society that they helped to build? With that, right, so here it is. It says King family, the CBS News. King family, uh, King family says holiday is no cause for celebration because of the crisis that's at hand in the U.S. Because I know other people across the globe are going to be watching this. So this is relative to the U.S. and the Voting Rights Act that is being challenged and also is under attack, right? So that's their way of that's their way of serving. That's their way of showing empathy, being socially aware. Again, remember, empathy is an action. And so, because empathy is an action, because this is the work that we're doing here, educating, equipping, and empowering individuals to live balanced lives, inter and intrapersonally, to live conscious lives, to live socially aware lives, to live empathic lives. We need your help. Okay, GC Squad needs your help, and one of the ways you can help us, we have multiple fundraisers that we engage, that's ongoing. That's ongoing. Um, the work that we do, especially with the Listening Oasis Wellness Space, which is our social emotional wellness support platform, that work that we do is free. We provide that service to individuals across the globe for free. We need help. That is our service. That is where our empathy comes in. That's our social awareness. We need support. We need help. If you are not fully engaged in some other way of showing empathy or being socially aware, we want to present this to you as an option. We want to present this to you as an opportunity to get involved, get engaged in serving others, and using your resources to make empathy come to life in your life and in the lives of others. Anybody wants to say anything on this right now? Anybody else on the call? Okay. We will. I wonder if there are any questions in the audience. Any questions? Not at this time. Okay.
Dr. Larry,
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. I think we just touched a bit on it. I think Dr. Arlene had asked the question, are you born with empathy or is that something that you learn? And you've said that it can be both, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the questions that I have is, what if one grew up in a home where they were not taught empathy?
Mm-hmm. And that happens. That has happened.
It
And
happens. Yes, it
what
does.
and so if that happens, we're hoping, and this is why we take our programming into homes, communities, schools, workplaces, in diverse settings across the globe, so that individuals can have access, to these skills,
Mhm.
these 5 core social emotional skills. And so we are creating access. Again, we need your support to help
Mhm.
us expand the access that we're creating. All
Mhm.
right. We need your help for that.
I have a question.
Okay.
So, Dr. Laria, so I am aware and totally agree with you about the awesome work that's happening through the Listening Oasis Wellness Space and the Institute for Social Emotional Education. So, if someone wanted to contribute today, where do they go to make a contribution?
Okay, great question. So if they want to, if we can bring up that slide again, they can go to, yes, they can go to www.everypeacematters.com, if they want to make a contribution online. If they want to make a contribution via Cash App, they could do, if we can put that in the, somehow we will put that on there. They can do $ GCSCORED, right? Cash App is $ GC scored, all uppercase. If you want to send a mailing, you want to mail your contribution. Yeah, because I know there's some people who, they're not all into the social media stuff. And that's okay. That's okay. I was just talking with someone yesterday and she was like, yeah, I'm not all into this social media stuff. So could you give me the mailing address? So the GC scored mailing address is 2417 Edison Road, Edison Road. I'm believing we're going to be able to put that information up on the screen at some point. Number 6684, South Bend, Indiana, 46660. Okay, 46660. I think our technical team is going to make that information available to our viewers. So yeah, that's for those who want to donate online. Everything is already set up. You just have to click what amount you want to donate. There are monthly amounts and there are annual amounts and there are weekly amounts, however often you want to give.
One time, right? Either one
There's a
time or
one-time
recurring.
gift. Yeah,
Or recurring.
Exactly. Yes. So, all right. So let's keep going. Any other questions?
No, that was good.
Yeah.
Real good.
All
So
right.
even, if people, the Listening Oasis offers such a phenomenal, when we think about the huge need of, the issues, the problems of mental illness in our communities, in our nation, in our world. The Listening Oasis Wellness Space offers that space for free, as you mentioned earlier, where people can come and receive the social emotional support to help them become their better selves. And
Right.
I would encourage anyone, whether you have a need for that service or perhaps you are, empathic enough to be concerned with other people's needs, to consider giving a recurring contribution to that particular service, because we are helping so many others to recognize, understand, learn how to become their better selves through that Listening Oasis Wellness Space.
And that directly and indirectly is going to help narrow and eliminate that empathy gap.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's how this works, people. Because if empathy is an action word and it gets its fuel from the mind, we're looking at how do we help individuals to have an empathic mindset. That is a process. We have to teach people. We have to provide support. We have to equip them. We have to empower them. We need your support to be able to do that, because we are really up against, I would call, and I think everybody on this call will agree, we are up against a empathy gap crisis, not just in this country, the US, but across the globe. Across the globe.
That's
and
right.
so and so it's critical. It's critical that one way you can serve today and in the future is collaborating with us, helping us through your donations. Even if you don't have the financial wherewithal, you can donate $3. $3.
Mhm.
We would even take $1. The only problem is that PayPal will take that. um, but yeah, if you have the time, we will train you to be a wellness champion
Mhm.
so that you can provide social emotional wellness support for individuals in your home, in
Mhm.
your community, wherever you find yourself
Yeah.
embedded.
Yeah. But let's reiterate that, Dr. Larry. I want to reiterate that because,
Mhm.
we're constantly getting calls. So the demand is great. Folks are constantly knocking at the door. And as you heard Dr. Larry just share, perhaps you might yourself might be interested in becoming trained, becoming educated. Um,
Mhm.
in this work that we're doing so that you yourself can become a wellness champion. We
Mhm.
encourage you to do that too through the same website that was mentioned earlier. What's up
Mhm.
down, the everypeacematters.com.
Mhm.
I believe there's a place for contact us to
Mhm.
express your interest in becoming trained, and we will follow up with you accordingly. So this is
Yes.
a global work. This work is not limited to one state or one country, and we're getting calls from across the globe. So and it is being fueled by volunteers. So
Mhm.
so all volunteers who have a willing and an empathic heart to be
That's
trained,
it.
to get the knowledge, and to spread that seed, to spread that knowledge, and to help other people.
Yeah. And
So,
so there's the information. Donate online, www.everypeacematters.com. And as Dr. G just said, we're working globally. And I want to just read a story. One of our rumorizees, or one of the people that have received services from us, is a 25-year-old Muslim female from northern Pakistan. And this person, she lives in a region known for oppressing the basic rights of women. She belongs to a patriarchal society where women are not allowed to speak up or speak about their own needs and desires, and where they cannot express their emotional needs or point of view. She learned about the Listening Oasis Wellness Space and reached out for help. She was scared of talking to one of our wellness champions and would hide in her closet, talking in hushed tones, thinking that the man of her house would take away her phone if they learned about her speaking to some outsider about her mental health and her social emotional wellness. Because she is in that culture, she is supposed to be happy-go-lucky for the sake of the dignity of her family. She was being pushed into an unwanted arranged marriage. She loved someone else and wanted to complete her college degree. Her situation made her sad, stressed out, anxious, and unhappy. The only time, listen to this, the only time when she could process her thoughts was through the RUMERTIME process that she had with our wellness champion through the Listening Oasis Wellness Space. The ease of having access from her closet against all odds, she was motivated to attend sessions every week. This helped her Lowe's, the Listening Oasis Wellness Space, which is a free and confidential space for individuals across the globe. This space helped her recognize her emotions and her thinking, her thoughts, and her behaving, her interactions, and her mindsets. The wellness champion couldn't change her physical circumstances, but was able to help equip her with the required social emotional skills that she used to explore, to dig deep and rediscover herself and appreciate her very existence in her community. This is just one of the stories that we have coming out of GC Scored. This is just one of the stories. And so this is another way, ladies and gentlemen, for you to help us continue this work of social awareness, social emotional competency building, relationship capacity building. All of that is the work we do here at GC Scored. We need your support and we need your help. So let's go on. Anybody else has anything they want to share at this point? Let's keep going. We will keep the information, on the places to donate. We'll keep it up on the screen. So here's another, are you guys seeing this one? Another quote by MLK. Are you guys seeing it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. You cannot solve a problem with anger or hatred. It takes empathy, patience, and compassion to overcome anger, hatred, and resentment. This is by Martin Luther. You cannot solve a problem with anger or hatred. It takes empathy, patience, and compassion to overcome anger, hatred, and resentment. Part of our definition of the RUMERTIME process and social emotional wellness is that it is a 5-step social emotional problem solving strategy that helps individuals move from a position of inter and intrapersonal imbalance to inter and intrapersonal balance, and from unconscious living to conscious living. Now, MLK said, you can't problem solve. You cannot problem solve using anger or hatred. It has to be empathy. And yes, I know you might be tired of hearing the word empathy, but empathy is an action word, and that's what we're talking about today. Social awareness and empathy, being other focused. Again, we teach, it can be taught. Dr. EJ asked a very important question. Yes, it can be taught. And it has to be taught, not just to children. And I know a lot of people think, oh, the social emotional skills. Listen, people, it's the same. These are the same skills that is called emotional intelligence. Okay? So for those of you who feel when we say social emotional skills or competencies, it sounds too juvenile, we can change it and label it as emotional intelligence. It's the same thing. It's just a different package. Okay? Let's not get it twisted, people. Let's focus at what is in the package and not the package covering. Okay, we gotta move from surface. We got to move from surface. We gotta go deep. Let's not get bogged down in labels and oh well, that just doesn't sound, I have a PhD and that just sounds too, too juvenile. It just sounds too elementary. People, let me just break it down. Okay. I'm gonna keep it real for you.
Break it down, Dr. Larian.
Break it down, break it down, break it down. Okay. It's the same thing. Emotional intelligence and social emotional competencies is the same doggone thing.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the same elements, and whether it's called skyrocket or is called socially, but whatever, those are skills that we need to maintain, establish, maintain, and fertilize or cultivate healthy relationships in all settings. So, whether you're in the boardroom or you're in the bedroom, you need
Very
to
true.
be self-aware, you need to be socially aware, you need to be able to manage yourself, you need to be able to manage your relationships, and you need to be able to make healthy decisions. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you speak English, Spanish, Mandarin, German, French, Swahili. It doesn't matter. We need it. As long as
Absolutely.
you're breathing, you need social emotional skills.
Absolutely. And therein lies, Dr. Larry, I'm chuckling because, I've heard so many adults even say, like, that's for children. When you mentioned the piece about the thinking that social emotional skills and competence is limited to children. Absolutely not. Therein lies a part of the problem, I think, that we
Yes.
experience is because adults believe that they have it. Like, we got this, we don't need it, that's for the children. But
Mm-hmm.
we have to remember that we were once children. And if we didn't get the lesson, if we didn't get the education, if no one taught us how to be socially aware, if we
Mm-hmm.
weren't competent children, then guess what? If we were not competent children, then we grew up as incompetent adults. So we
Yeah,
still need the lesson. We need to be
exactly.
taught. We need to be educated. We need to be equipped so we can know
Exactly.
how to do this and do it right.
Exactly. And what we have, right? Because culture is transmitted. If it's not transformed, it gets transmitted, right? And so we have to keep in mind that if we didn't get that, like Geneva says, if we didn't get those skills growing up, the people around us didn't have them, and then so they gave us what they had, and now we are giving what we have. So what is it you want to give? That's the question, right? What is it you want to give? What is it you're giving the next generation and the next generation? And so we're not going to, the empathy gap is not going to become narrowed until we first recognize that there is an empathy gap, until we first realize and recognize that this empathy gap didn't just happen in a vacuum. It didn't happen in isolation, right? It didn't. There has to be some intentionality, some consciousness about what we are planting, what we are giving, what is the seeds that we are planting. There has to be some intentionality about it if we want to see this empathy gap closed. Many of our problems in our societies stem from what is happening at the root level, at the root of empathy. Empathy, we can look at empathy as a fruit, right? It's a fruit of what seeds are we planting that's causing us to pick fruits that are not empathic, right? What are the seeds that we're planting? What is the environment like? What's the soil like around us individuals who are embedded in multiple settings at the same time? What is that like? What is it that we are what is it that's being transmitted into the soil of our very existence?
Are you
That's
saying that that
creating,
produces the lack of?
that produces fruit that is non-empathic,
Mhm.
that's producing fruit that is selfish, that's producing fruit that is unkind, that's producing fruit that is lacking in terms of, the social other,
Mhm. Mhm.
where everything is self-focused and not other-focused. One of
Mhm.
MLK's quotes is about we need to move away from thinking of things and more person focused. And I'll share that with you guys. Sure. Let me share that now.
Well,
Uh,
well, with the quote that you currently have up,
mhm,
I think that is so uh, foundational in the conversation at this point. You can't solve problems with anger or hatred. And so all of us are embedded in settings where we aim to offer solutions to something,
mhm,
solutions to
mhm,
something or someone, and we cannot offer solution with anger or hatred. As Dr. King said, it takes empathy and patience and compassion to overcome those things. We can't
mhm.
move forward. Those things, if we could use a term that we use, are herbicidal, right? They
Right,
are
right.
uh, infectious.
Mhm.
They can grow, but they can continue to grow in a harmful kind of way and not a helpful way. So we
Right.
have to recognize the harm, and if we care about cutting, we have to stop doing what we're doing that's producing the harm.
Yeah, yeah. We absolutely have to. Absolutely have to. Again, if you want to donate, there is the website online, www.everypeacematters.com. If you want to donate by mail, the address is to GC Scored. Make your check out to GC Scored, 2417 Edison Road, number 6684, South Bend, Indiana, 46660. All right, let's go. And if you want to do Cash App, is $GCSCORED, all uppercase. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so here is the monthly donor options on the website, www.everypeacematters.com. We have amounts of $25, $50, 75, 100, 125, or any other amount that you're able to contribute. We must rapidly begin. Are you guys seeing this? We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. That's MLK. That's what I was just saying, right? We have to, and I would also say, we also must rapidly begin the shift from a fruit-oriented society to a root-oriented society. All right. So that's going to be one of my quotes, right? So I just want everybody to know right there. We must rapidly begin the shift from a fruit picking oriented society to a root digging oriented society.
Mhm. Mhm.
We have to.
Absolutely.
Why do you guys think we should? Why do you think we need to do that?
Causes and consequences. you
Yes,
know, the root, the
yes.
cause. We have to understand what is pushing forth the thing that's producing the kind of fruit that we see. And so, as you mentioned earlier, even behaviors are fruit. But the root of that is the mind that behavior comes out of, the mindset, the thinking, the beliefs. So if the mind and the thinking and the belief is street term here, screwed up, unproductive, harmful, if the root if at the very root is harmful, then the fruit is going to be consistent with the root.
Exactly.
So if we want to, if we don't want to see that, we prefer to see something more tasty, palatable, something more beautiful, sweet, honest, lovely, good rapport, patience, empathy. If we want to see those things, then those things have to be at the root.
Yeah.
The root produces the fruit. So what's in the root is what we're going to see in the fruit.
Show up in the fruit. And it's a simple concept, but this is foundational to our framework. But even more than that, this is a foundational, rudimentary concept that we as a society, as a world, do not. We are fighting against the simplicity of it. But we're reaping the rewards or consequences of fighting against it. What I'm saying is, if we continue to want to pick fruit and just keep looking, oh, this is a pretty fruit, this is full, this luscious, this, is so pretty, and we stop right there. In our thinking, we're saying, oh, not making the connection that this fruit is an outgrowth of what is happening at the root level. No fruit is born without a root, a seed. It doesn't happen. And so do behaviors. Behaviors don't just happen. There is a root cause, and we as a world need to understand that, embrace it, come to terms with it, hug it, love it, because that's the only way we're going to be able to close the empathy gap. It's the only way we're going to be able to close the health disparities gap. It's the only way we're going to be able to close the school to prison pipeline gaps. It's the only way we're going to be able to close the education gaps.
And the gaps on all the isms. Okay?
Yes.
All the isms. Racism,
Yeah.
ageism, all of those isms.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got to go to the root.
So
you might take Dr. Laria to just share our application to diversity, equity, and inclusion, the work that we're doing in terms of applying the RUMERTIME process to DEI.
Oh, okay.
Well, before you all do that, I do have a question that's been sort of formulating in my mind, and so maybe you might be able to, with this question, tie that into the DEI work that you are doing. So we've been doing a lot of talking about the root of a thing, and so we've talked a little bit about, obviously, like, these behaviors or these fruits are not just coming from anywhere, right? There is a cause, and there's a root cause to that. And so, again, if my tree has been nurtured in rich soil, where the roots are kindness and love, and I'm going to bear that kind of fruit in the world. But again, if a tree doesn't have that rich soil, the roots are going to, or the fruit that comes is going to be something totally different from that. And what we see too, not kind of expanding this, is like different world views, right? My view of the world is one thing because the roots for me has been those of seeds that were planted of love and kindness and compassion and empathy. But the worldview for someone else is going to be very different if their tree has not been planted in that same kind of soil. And so my question is, or I guess like we talked a little bit earlier about voting rights, and that being a question now. So, which is a fundamental right. So my question is for those people who are creating blocks,
Barriers, yeah.
barriers to
Yeah.
that. Like, I don't know, is this logical to say? And I don't know, like that their tree has not been planted in that same rich soil. Because
Absolutely.
again, if you have that rich soil, you understand
Yeah.
the
Others.
fruits of the other tree, right?
You understand that's social awareness.
So how do we reconcile that? Because you
We have
said something earlier about hugging, and isn't that what Dr. King and
in his speech, I have a dream. He saw his children and other white children holding hands. And yeah. And so absolutely. And so here is the thing. You are spot on. It is a simple concept, but the simplicity of it makes people who see themselves as intelligent, it makes them feel like they're not as intelligent because it could not be that simple. It just couldn't be that simple. But that's what it is. You a orange tree does not bear mangoes. Excuse me.
Bless you.
A grapefruit tree does not bear grapes. Even though the first part of the name sounds similar. Okay. It doesn't. Grapefruit. No. You plant a grapefruit seed, you will get grapefruits. You plant an apple seed, you will get apples. You plant seeds, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. You plant a seed of hatred, and if you nurture it and water it with hatred fertilizers, you will get exclusion. You will get individuals trying to build barriers to voting access. You will get individuals, murdering citizens just because of the color of their skin. You will get, that's what you will get because that's the seed you planted. It is the simplest thing. Even the Bible says, The trees bear after their kind. The animals bear after their kind. Humans don't give birth to animals, right?
Yeah.
Dogs don't give birth to cats. Dogs give birth to dogs. Cats
Mhm.
give birth. It is a simple law of nature. And we as humans think we are so intelligent and we know more than the person who created this world. And so we don't want, no, it couldn't be that simple. If I plant hatred and anger and bitterness, I could pretend, I could smile at you and I wouldn't be giving off, anger and bitterness and resentment. Of course not. I have control. I can control my emotions. No, you can't. It comes up in the way you treat people, in your ability to desire whether I am going to help the social other, how I see that person. Because how I see you, how I believe about you, what I believe about you is how I'm going to treat you.
Mhm.
You guys know my quote. Behind every behavior is a belief.
Mhm.
It's simple, but it is foundational to relationship and understanding the world. If we want to see these isms and empathy and all these gaps reduced or eliminated, right?
Dr. Laria,
Yes.
at the risk of sounding like one of these intelligent people,
Okay,
not
go ahead.
realizing it's that simple, um, is it plausible when we're talking about human beings? Is it plausible that you can have a sower that sows hatred,
Mm-hmm.
um, but at the end of it, the fruit does not demonstrate hatred? Does that make sense?
So you're saying they sow hatred. It's in
A
the
sower's
soil.
fruit, yeah, this in the soil, there's hatred planted.
Uh-huh.
But when the tree grows,
Mm-hmm.
the fruit does not have hatred. The fruit somehow has been able to learn empathy and learn compassion and care for the social
Mm.
other.
No,
Is it plausible?
it's not.
Okay. At the risk of sounding like one of these intelligent people you're
No,
talking about.
it's not, because if we look at a fruit as the outgrowth of what was planted,
Mm-hmm.
a fruit doesn't just decide, oh, you know what, I'm not going to accept this skin, right? This skin that covers my fruit. The fruit doesn't get to choose that. It doesn't get to choose that. Like somebody said the other day, a child doesn't get to decide if it's going to be born or not.
Mhm.
Right. Right.
Or whether it will be male or female, or yeah.
Right?
Right.
A baby doesn't get that choice.
Mhm.
Similarly, when a seed is planted, now if you plant the seed and you maybe take it up and you dig it up and you then plant a different seed and you nurture it and you fertilize it, you will get a different fruit. But that's only if you plant a different seed. But if you plant an orange seed, the fruit doesn't say to the seed, I don't want to be an orange.
I guess the what's going through my mind is
Uh-huh.
when we're talking about human beings, you can have, let's call the parent the sower who
Uh-huh.
sows the seed of hatred.
Uh-huh.
And then the plant grows
Mm-hmm.
and produces fruit, which is the child. but somehow that child has learned that there's no need for hatred.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? And so how then do we reconcile?
Right. Okay. So if you're saying the fruit is the child, we're given a parent-child relationship. So the parents gave birth to a child, and that parent is full of hatred.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of other environmental factors then that could influence the outcome or the child, how the child shows up in the world,
How the tree grows. Yeah.
how the tree grows. Yes. Now, if we're using the parent as the root or the seed, planting their child, creating a child,
Mm-hmm.
raising a child, yes, you can do that. Because that's why it's important for people in schools and communities and churches, synagogues, mosque, whatever, temples, to have influence and to be a part of a support system, to be a part of a community, so that this child who was born and birthed in a home that was filled with hatred could change. Right? It could change, and it may not happen during the 18 years of life. If while they're at home, it could be when they leave, and that is definitely possible, and it happens. Right? It happens to all of us. We learn things at home, we go through trauma during those early years in our lives, and somebody comes in, or we have experiences that come and say to us, help us reshape the way we see the world, how we interact. That is definitely so. But
Dr. Larry,
that's again,
I'm looking at that. Oh, sorry.
that is again,
Yeah.
if we're looking at the parent as the bearer and the child is the fruit.
Makes sense. Okay. I just had that because I was just mulling around in my mind, like you hear nurture versus nature and all these, someone was, raised by abusive parents, but that person is the most compassionate person, and
Right.
that kind of, so yeah, that was just
that
rolling around
happens.
in my head.
That happens in human relationships. Right? It happens, it definitely happens in human relationships. But what we have to understand is the seed, if the seed was planted, that will be a part of the child's makeup until there's some type of intervention or prevention strategies, or person that comes in and provides care and compassion and empathy and empowers that child, educates and equips them to be different. Yeah, that is definitely possible.
Okay.
Vanessa, sorry.
No. I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt, but the thing that was swirling around in my mind as you were explaining that, I was looking at that as the hybrid.
Oh.
Right? Having other influences, right? So that you have one thing that then becomes something else.
Yes.
So all of these other influences, environmental influences, are helping to shape this thing into something else. And the thing that also popped into my mind, I just very recently watched a movie on Netflix, and it's called The Best of Enemies. And so if you all have not seen that, I recommend it. I encourage you to watch it. It's a movie based on a true story. This was in Durham,
North Carolina.
North Carolina, yes. And this was about Ann Atwater, who was a civil rights leader. And his name was C.P. Ellis, who was the head of the Ku Klux Klan.
I saw that movie. That yes, and how he yes, go ahead. I don't want to be
Yes. So that for me was, as you were talking, that was playing in the background of my mind at
mm-hmm,
how this can happen. So you
mm-hmm,
have one who is the head of the KKK,
mm-hmm,
but because he was exposed to
mm-hmm.
something different,
And watch empathy, because it was
that
empathy. That's it. Because
yes,
she went over and above. She tried to help. She was firm, but she was also very empathic.
yes,
When his son, who was not was I think developmentally delayed or something.
hmm, she extended that empathy to
Yes.
him, one
Yes.
who had fought against her and
Yes.
her rights. She
Mm-hmm.
still extended that love and that empathy towards him and his family.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yeah.
impacted him in such a way
Mm-hmm.
that he changed.
Yes. And
He
they went
changed his
around
mindset.
his mindset, and they went around educating people.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So again, that movie is the best of enemies. So again, that is a prime example of how empathy
Mm-hmm.
works, and I think also about the fact that darkness cannot infiltrate light,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
but light covers darkness
It
and
casts it out. It, it,
and
it
illuminates.
illuminates. Yeah.
Yes,
It removes darkness. It gets
that's right.
you can't have darkness if there's light.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I think that is part of that empathy, the
Mm-hmm.
light. Empathy is part of that light.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, this was a great discussion. Does anybody want to, any of the co-hosts, want to say any parting words? I just want to remind individuals to donate online and www.everypeacematters.com, and by mail, uh, GC Scored, make the check out to GCSCORED and mail it to 2417 Edison Road, number 6684, South Bend, Indiana 466660.
Mhm.
All right. It truly was a pleasure. I'll wait to hear from the others, whatever their parting words are.
I just want to say that I wanted to chime in when Dr. EJ was speaking that there is always hope. So, just because an individual might see that, let me back this up. Because a person may have been born in a house of thorns, doesn't mean that they are doomed for life or they're going to always be a thorn.
Mm-hmm.
But it does require a recognition that they don't
Mm-hmm.
like the thorns and they want
Mm-hmm.
to change.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Dr. Larry spoke to that already, but I wanted to just reiterate there is always hope, because there's always hope to change
Mm-hmm.
the fruit, but it's a recognition of what has contributed to that fruit and intentionally making changes to that. So
Yeah,
I
thank you.
appreciate sharing in this conversation today.
Yeah, appreciate that. I'm glad. I like that note of that conclusion there about hope.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
want to make sure people understand that. Thank you, Dr. Geneva. Who's next?
Vanessa, did you have your hand up?
Oh, listen, I think my parting word is, again, one of the things that was instilled in me as a child is, um, what comes from the heart reaches the heart.
Mm.
And I think that is on the tail skirts of what you were just saying, Dr. Geneva, about having hope, right?
Mhm.
So what comes from my heart reaches the heart. And therefore, there's hope.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I mean, thank you. I've appreciated being part of this conversation. So
Mhm.
thank
Thank
you.
you. What comes from the heart reaches the heart. Beautiful, beautiful.
I guess for me, what I'd like to say is don't let Dr. King's death be in vain. Don't let his work be in vain. Today we celebrate his life. And so I would love for everyone who is watching to really think about that and think about the things that he did and think about his contribution
Mhm.
to the earth and to to humans in general, because he talked about white men and black men and
Mhm.
really focus on that and think about how we can move forward as individuals. What's our responsibility? What's our role? What do we do um, to keep his legacy going? We're not
Mhm.
worshiping him, but he has set a foundation and a legacy. What do we do as individuals to
Mhm.
honor that? It's more than just I got a day off.
Yeah.
It's more than I got the day off so I don't have to go to work. But what do we get from this? What do we learn from his life?
Mhm. Mhm. Very, very well said. Thank you. Thank you all. And I want to just say, kind of summarize some of the high points in our discussion today. Social awareness, empathy, being other focused, is an action word. It is an action word. It is not only for individuals in high places. It's not only for the Martin Luther Kings of the world. It's not only for the activists or the civil rights leaders. You can be an empathic leader in your sphere of influence. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can show empathy. You can show kindness. You can show compassion in simple things. For example, a little kindergartner can show empathy by sharing,
Mhm.
by being nice, by being kind. An elementary school child can show empathy by helping their classmates, a student from a different part of the world. You could not bully. You can be inclusive. A high school student can show empathy by not uh, calling names, by not defacing property, by doing the work that you were called to do, which is your schoolwork, graduating from high school. A college student can show empathy by getting involved in clubs on campus, by being kind to your roommate, by being kind to the clerk in the store, an employee, a teacher, a police officer, employees, wherever you're embedded. You can show empathy by thinking about how I treat the social other is going to make me, if you want to bring the focus back on you, it's going to make me a better person. Empathy is not only about the other, it is about you as well. Am I back?
Yes.
Okay. So there are ways, simple ways to show empathy. And that's what we want to communicate today. You can show empathy by helping GC Squad help others across the globe in your neck of the woods, by donating online, by donating by mail, by donating by Cash App. The work we're doing at the Listening Oasis Wellness Space is free and confidential, and we need your support. We need your empathy, because empathy is an action word.
Mhm.
Empathy is an action word. So we thank you for joining us, and we're going to be having more lives twice a month on Mondays. So join us again. We're gonna send out the date and the time, and we would love to have you join us for these engaging conversations. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for participating. Thank you for your donations, and we look forward to seeing you again. Let your friends and family, relatives, everybody know about who GC Squad is. We would love to get you to partner with us. So, again, remember, empathy is an action word, and you can be an empathic person. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.